site plan review, 12 Green Road, the new Neshoba High School. I think what we're hoping, I believe Pam sent out a draft list of conditions to everyone, and people have had a chance to review them. And hopefully we can kind of converge on those tonight and move forward with the approval. So Pam, do you want to give kind of an overview of where we're at?
Sure. At the last meeting, we had concluded our peer review with the consultant. They reported all their conditions had been met with the exception of a few minor issues. And so a draft of conditions, what recommended conditions for site plan approval was created and distributed to the applicant as well as planning board members and other town staff. There have been a few minor changes to it, but nothing significant. Including one this afternoon, which is a recommended change from DPW, which included the resolution of representing an existing drainage pipe, which runs along the right of way in Main Street easterly from the approximate location of the westerly Main Street driveway into the rotary. They just want to be sure it's included on the construction plans so that the applicant is aware that the pipe exists, particularly when they're constructing the right of way. I can share the conditions.
Yeah, that'd be great if you do that. And I don't know, Eric from KBA, did you want to talk about concerns, or I think there was 33 conditions in there?
Yeah, we've been talking about the conditions, and in the interest of everybody's time, we can do a presentation, or we can just review the conditions going forward. I'm not sure, Joe, if you have any comments. Joe's been working on the conditions also, so if you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
No, I know that the town planner and myself talked this afternoon, and there was some modifications that Pamela was going to make. I don't know if those are here.
They were revised. They were pretty minor, and we can review them with the board as we go through everything.
Yeah. Looks like number 1 is a new one, unless that's what was the last one.
We verbally talked about that on the phone. It wasn't on the draft. It just requires a complete updated set of plans to be distributed because the revisions to the plans were submitted page by page. So we didn't have a complete PDF of the plans or a hard copy of them. So we requested one complete set incorporating all the revisions throughout the review process.
And that complete set is a hard copy? Or do you want both electronic and a hard copy?
We requested both in the condition,
cool.
One PDF and 2 11x18s and one full size.
Okay. Eric, is that similar to what was sent?
Yeah, that we sent out a link to a PDF yesterday, the day before. So it's going to be a version of that set of drawings.
So we can print those out, and can I just ask, 24 by 26 is not a standard size 24
I'm
by
sorry,
36?
it's supposed to be 36, yes.
Yeah. We'll have to have those printed at a print shop. That's okay, but we can print those out and deliver them to you.
Yeah, we need to file because there have been significant revisions throughout the process. We need to file an approved copy with the clerk with our decision. So we need to have a hard copy, and we also like a field copy to bring out with us to the site when we conduct site visits.
Sure. Are you sure you don't want 2 with the 24 by 36? Because the 11 by 18 is going to be kind of hard to read. For me, as old as I am, it's hard for me to read.
Yeah, it probably will be. The town clerk prefers the smaller copies to be filed with the decision just for space purposes.
Yeah. And the standard size is 11 by 17. The legal size document is 11 by 17.
Okay.
18 by 24 and 24 by 36.
Perfect.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Yep.
So that was one of the new conditions that wasn't distributed in the draft. And then 5 is a new condition that I just spoke about that the DPW director requested. It's a just incorporating an existing drainage pipe that runs from an inlet that exists along Main Street. It proceeds east into the rotary, and he wanted that included on the plans.
So we're just updating the plans for that, not actually physically putting in the pipe, right?
Correct.
Okay, so.
No, the pipe is there. It's an existing pipe.
Existing pipe.
Yeah.
So we would want to do that revision, I would think, before we print out those.
I would think so,
17
yeah.
copies
Yeah.
and stuff like that, so it's complete. Okay.
Correct.
Mhm.
And then another, you can go through. Condition 7, we discussed at the last meeting. It was about the temporary crossing for construction vehicles and pedestrians to access the site. There was no issues with that condition.
Consigli is the person who'll be installing that. That's not being done through the district. That's a temporary application for their workers
Right.
during construction. Mhm.
And there was another condition which requests the Main Street sidewalk be constructed in accordance with a set of highlighted plans. I can bring those up in a minute, but that was a former agreement between the applicant and DPW
Correct. Yep,
in coordination with the Rotary project and some work that's being done.
we have those drawings on file from Beta, so we can use that as a guide.
And then a condition that the applicant was opposed to was extending the sidewalk along Green Road to the buses only and emergency vehicle entrance that's in the vicinity of the ball fields. We had requested they're responsible for constructing a portion of sidewalk along Main Street into the Rotary and then connecting across their driveway onto Green Road to a crosswalk that's proposed. And we had requested that the sidewalk be extended into the new driveway on Green Road, which is to be utilized by emergency vehicles. The applicant had some opposition to that because of the limited use of that driveway and some grading issues. And Joe, if you want to speak to that a little more.
Well, it was, I mean, I don't have our plans. I can bring up our plans if you'd like to share, but the issue.
I've got 'em.
Okay, you got them. It has multiple components. Firstly, the grade is such that it drops off as you go up the hill on Green Road. And obviously the baseball field is basically pretty level. You have about a 5 or 6 feet grade drop within about 15 to 20 feet. And to then put in an 8-foot wide sidewalk would require us to install a retaining wall with a railing on the retaining wall, and also to provide some space between the baseball field outfield fence, which is a fixed fence, and this retaining wall. To be able to do that at all, we would have to take out 2 mature trees that are right along the roadway on Green Road on the scenic way. That driveway doesn't really, is only an emergency access, as Pamela said, and for buses in actually pre-K exiting the site. It's not used as a pedestrian or a public entrance for vehicles. Where are you going? There you go. Typically, if you can scroll to the left a little, Eric. Typically, when people are coming into the site, oh, that's the end of the sheet.
Yep.
You know, go to the overall sheet. It's easier to see, unless it doesn't have grading on it. No, there, that's good. So basically, the sidewalk is provided along the main driveway entrance, and of course, the baseball field has entrances along both sides, along the sidelines of the baseball field. The fixed fence doesn't have any openings in the outfield fence at all. But as you can see, the grade drop off occurs to get steeper as you go up towards the driveway to the right on Green Road. And not the least concern for the district is the security and safety issue, where That is an exit used by buses during the everyday drop off during morning and afternoon. To exit Green Road and then go out to the Rotary. What we're afraid of is that if a sidewalk is present there, that will encourage children to walk out to that point and be picked up by parents who may not want to wait in a queue at the front of the school, and causing a little bit of a backup from the Rotary where the buses are trying to exit, and also causing a little bit of queuing that may increase the hazard at that entrance. We don't really see the benefit of putting a sidewalk up to that point, and there seem to be multiple reasons not to. I don't know, Kirk, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, in addition, there's 3 trees. There's 2 trees here that we're trying to save, and there's another larger pine tree up by the Green Road driveway. We're trying to save all those. If we do that walk, all those are going to have to come out.
Yeah.
Joe,
I-
I think,
Oops, sorry, go ahead, Kirk. I'll speak after you.
as Mr. Milani pointed out, I thought you summarized our concerns well, Joe. And we know with the flow of any pedestrian traffic along the sidewalks, they are far more likely to access the property on the sidewalks that would be provided adjacent to the parking lot. And so adding that sidewalk, I think, introduces variables that would make it more difficult for supervision and for flow. And for that, I would not recommend that we have that added there.
Yeah, this is Craig Olson, also of Castle Booze. We wanted to understand a little bit of the planning board's request to have this extension and their thought process behind it to help us, because as mentioned, there's a concern from a safety and security standpoint. But with the kids going there, it was specifically why we don't have sidewalks even along the Green Road entrance from our site. So I think it's trying to understand the intent of having the sidewalk going where it would just then terminate at a bus entry.
Yeah, the request was just to keep the connection from the driveway, understanding that people would be utilizing the field after hours of school and providing a safe pathway for them to walk along, but the frontage of the school property as much as possible. We always try to install sidewalks along public ways as best we can when there's new construction projects. So the request was just to extend it as much as possible along the frontage of the site, particularly for a facility that's gets utilized by a lot of younger people that are more apt to walk around campus.
Yeah, and also to that point, so the Green Road, the bus entrance that's shown there on the right side of the slide, that's the existing driveway that is there today.
No, but that's not a bus entrance. That's only a bus exit. The buses enter at the other end of the site near the treatment plant and the tennis courts.
Right,
And
I guess.
They enter on the west, they go around the school and they come out here.
Yeah.
And it's about
But-
40 feet east of the existing entry.
Okay, so that's not where the existing road is.
Correct. The existing road's right in here.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't understand the comment at first about the grading, because the grading along that part where the existing road is very shallow. I mean, so you're talking going up towards about where do you know where the old tennis courts were on
Yeah, it's
that
it's
sheet?
not quite that
No.
far. The tennis
Yeah,
courts, so
not-
you can
not
see
that
in the upper
far.
right-hand
Okay.
corner of the sheet there. Yep, it's not.
Alright.
It does continue to right up in grade there, but it's not as far up as the tennis courts.
Yeah, I mean, so to Pam's point that, anytime we have new construction, whether it's subdivision, commercial, we have sidewalks installed. I mean, in this case, you're talking about there's going to be a baseball field, there's going to be an outfield fence there. People are going to be hanging around that outfield fence. I mean, we certainly see that in baseball games around town. So what is that just grass there? Is that a swale? Like, what is that space?
Right in here is more or less a swale, but we've got a fence here and an outfield net here. And then a warning track, which is basically stone dust 10 feet inside that fence.
Mhm.
But between the fence and the street, that's all lawn proposed.
Yeah. And also it's kind of what Pam said. I mean, we envision people will be using this after hours, walking, and we realize that that is a bus only lane, but people are going to be probably walking around that, you know, after school doing things, and having some safe way of getting from there to the front side of, you know, over to Main Street, that's a concern. Now, I will say that, you know, Superintendent Downing is here, and you don't see any concern with safety. They bring up kind of the points that I'm saying. I mean, Green Road's a very narrow road right there, and there will be people walking, you know, from that entrance over to there. Maybe not during school, but certainly at some point.
Yeah, can you zoom out, Eric, or show the overall site plan so the board can get an impression of what's going on there? So the parking lot you see to the right of the baseball field is basically the exact same parking lot that's next to the auditorium and the gymnasium right now. But instead of that road jogging over, you know, to the east, I mean to the west, it now goes just straight out to Green. Sorry, where'd you go? So the amount of people walking down that road during well, school hours anyway will be probably minimal, because it's a long way to go from the school, whereas it's much easier to walk down the main driveway that's to the west of the baseball field, to the left. So I can understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure that there actually is going to be a lot of people using that. It seems to be off the main, you know, crosswalks and other things, unless they're coming down Green Road. If they're coming from the west, they're going to enter the site at the main driveway, at the sidewalk at the main driveway. They're not going to walk up to the far end of the field, I wouldn't think. And if they're parking to use the baseball field, we're assuming they would use either the lot to the north at the top of the sheet or the lot to the west. Aside from removing trees and putting in a retaining wall and other things like that around the field, I think the district's main concern was the safety of students who during the school day might use that as a way to bypass the typical queuing line, which is coming in the main driveway, going up to the school at the top of the screen at the left, and then coming back down out to the Rotary. And rather than waiting that line, they say, we'll just come out here and wait here for my parents, and they'll pick us up on Green Road. But that is something we'd like to not to promote.
Yeah, Joe, if I could just kind of build on to what the district's concern in our discussion is the fact of if you build it, they will come kind of concept. And we don't want to encourage pedestrian circulation along there. And that's really the concern. The number one concern is that by placing a sidewalk there, it would encourage pedestrian circulation, which is not preferred, because of all the items you mentioned about the tightness of the road and that. So we're trying to actually discourage it by not placing a sidewalk there. And then the second part, as Joe was mentioning, is really it would require us to remove some mature trees on the scenic highway that would then require some additional permitting as part of this process.
Yeah, I mean, that permitting would go through us, and that's not a concern. So don't worry about that. But I am interested in hearing a little bit more from Superintendent Downing, just to, you know.
Thank you. I was
Again,
going to ask, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
As I'm hearing the discussion, I think it's an order of magnitude that we're talking about. While there could be some benefit to having that for some general foot traffic that happens in the community, the order of magnitude when we have 800 up to 1,000 students at our peak at the high school is the supervision and tracking of where students go. So we're very specific about where we want students entering and exiting the property, which pathways they're using. We did training videos this year to help students understand what that would look like for our temporary parking structures. And as you can see, if we can scan out a little bit, Eric, sight lines are so critically important. If we're going to be able to monitor the safety of foot traffic around the school, and we design and build a path that takes students to an area that attract them to be farther away from supervision or ability to respond, I do have a concern with that, because when we're bringing 850 to 900 students, 800 to 1,000, as I mentioned before, we need a reasonable element of predictability of the student body and how they enter and exit the property. because we're always worried about the unexpected moment. So we try to build systems that contain that as much as possible. So the magnitude of potential dangers relative to students accessing and using a sidewalk to an area we do not want them to go versus the benefit it might bring to general foot traffic. My bias, my lane, my responsibilities as a superintendent is to say, please give us the option where we can most safely conduct school, as that is the primary function of the property.
Right.
Yep, I appreciate that opinion, and that certainly helps. I mean, just in your experience, do kids often follow rules and go exactly where they're supposed to go? And are they just gonna be walking through there anyway, do you think?
No, we don't have a lot of foot traffic to our high school at all. I mean,
Okay.
almost all the student body comes in via their own transportation or buses. Foot traffic is very, very, very minimal. I personally haven't witnessed it myself when I've been on site. So it's not a need for us in terms of people safely coming to school.
Okay.
It's kind of remote from most housing in the area.
Oh yeah. I'm not really thinking of kids. I'm really thinking more kids walking around again after hours, after school, things like that.
Or during a baseball game, perhaps, where there's a lot of people there. So I'm
Running
actually
around.
It's in that vein of the baseball game actually concerns me more. If any of you have been to our football games, you will see our greatest concern is when students are surrounding the track on all sides of the football field, and activities are happening that our administrators are responding to, and they're not able to do so quickly because they got to go all the way around the field. If we build congregation areas where students and visiting students are congregating and a situation arises, our ability to intervene and is greatly diminished if we're providing them areas to congregate, and that does worry me. I would rather they go where we design them to. I think this parking lot design that is adjacent to the first baseline encourages access to the baseball field from that side. On the third baseline, you can see we have ample parking on that side. So it's, frankly, Fenway could learn a lesson from the way this is designed on how to get traffic in and out. So I would really not like to have congregation areas where we aren't able to supervise.
So I'll give the rest of the board a chance to weigh in just a second here. But so for everyone's perspective, so the sidewalk that will be built that we've all agreed to is from the entrance at the corner. I guess that's technically Green Road. You call that entrance, or is that
The Rotary
no, sorry, where the Rotary is going to be, like that.
that's
Sorry, the other one.
Yeah, that's
That-
The Rotary entrance?
That you call it, yeah, the Rotary entrance right there. So there's
Right.
going to be a sidewalk from there over to the west entrance,
Yes.
running along the road.
And it stops at the west entrance. It doesn't go further than that.
Yep. And so that
And
would be
it-
the only sidewalk
And
being
it does,
built.
oops, you lost your screen, Eric.
No, I took it away. I'm going to share the screen with the plan that,
Okay, because there is
Um,
a little more sidewalk there on the east side of the Rotary. You need the next sheet, Pamela. That's showing the sidewalk going from the
Yep.
west entrance over to the Rotary.
yeah,
And
and then
then
it's
you
a
can
little
see-
difficult to see, but here's the driveway to the high school.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then this is the sidewalk that the applicant will be constructing on Green Road.
Yeah.
And there's a crosswalk here.
It's-
Yep.
Yeah, it stops short of those two trees, and then it goes to a crosswalk.
So for the members of the board, we had asked them to extend that sidewalk from the crosswalk area east up Green Road into the driveway. They've made their presentation as to why they don't want that there. So I'll open it to other members of the board to share their feelings on it.
I think in general, we try to get more mobility in town. So walkway would be nice. I see the reasons why you don't want it. But I would prefer it, but I appreciate your explanation of why you don't want it. I think, the more walkways we could build, the better in town. Personally.
As
But I
far-
understand.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say, I understand your reasoning.
Yeah, likewise. I do also have one quick question about the future usage of the property. So there's currently the tennis courts, which are sort of up on the hill. What is going to be there?
Wells.
Eventually?
That's the new potable well field. Since the existing potable well that services both fire protection and the domestic water is inside the existing school in the basement of the boiler room under an oil tank. That is not in compliance, and so we are replacing that existing well with anywhere between 1 and 4 new wells, depending on what the DEP rules, where the tennis courts used to be. Those tennis courts are the ones that were moved to the western side of the site in front of the treatment plant along Route 117. Those new ones were built over the summer, and then the 5 tennis courts on the where they existed are going to be replaced in the end scheme of the project.
Joe, could you also explain what any future development that could occur because of the wells being there?
None. The DEP argued that they were afraid that because the wells were so close to the baseball field that the district would install bleachers there, and that the bleachers would be a problem for the cleanliness of the water getting down to the wells. So the only thing that's going to be there, can't be any pavement, can't be any structures. It has to just be grass and nothing else. So that those tennis courts have been removed, and that is designed to be new lawn area where the wells are going to be going up on the hill.
Basically,
it's
it's going to be
treatment facility up there too.
Yeah, it's going to be seeded as a conservation seed mix and basically let to go wild.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, it kind of all comes down to whether we believe students are going to congregate there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If as Superintendent Downing has pointed out, if he's confident that students won't be there, or parents or other members of the community won't congregate on that section of the field, then this makes sense to me. But if they're going to be there anyway, I feel that we should make a safe passageway from that section of the field to the Rotary.
Yeah,
that was Costin. That was kind of my thought. I mean, I feel like with games, people will be want to walk around the field, or and they're going to be walking on the road, or I mean, I think if people are going
I don't believe there's any intent on continuing that sidewalk the rest of the way up Green Road, right? That is where that would terminate.
Yeah, I think what Eric's talking about is, I mean, during if you've gone to a baseball game, you see people just kind of meandering around the field, walking, especially in the outfield. So, I mean, people, my belief is people are going to be out there regardless. Now, is it worth it for that to have a sidewalk there? Based on what Superintendent Downing said about not wanting parents doing quick pickups and drop-offs from that because there's a sidewalk. So, I'm kind of a mind to defer to the superintendent that, he thinks that having a sidewalk there is more likely to cause issues during normal school hours, and maybe that outweighs the number of people hanging around the outfield during baseball games.
Mr. Chairman,
sure,
may
go
I
ahead.
comment on that?
Yep.
I think you're absolutely right. The commentary around a baseball game, again, is ancillary. What I'm talking about is between the hours of 7:30 and 2:30, and the promotion of safety and danger during those times, putting a sidewalk in there because we have the authority in the building to say, hey, if we see folks using that, we can say that's not there. You build a sidewalk there, if that argument is taken away from us to say, oh, well, you put a sidewalk there, what else did you put it there for? That's why I'm dropping my kid off there and moving on. It encourages that, which introduces more danger at a time that, frankly, the busiest time of Route 117 is between the first day of school, the last day of school, the hours of 7:15 to 7:45 and 2:15 to 2:45. That's the busiest time of that road. And that's the time that the school district is liable for the safety of students door to door, which is why I don't think it's wise to put that sidewalk there, because I think it would promote and encourage dangerous behaviors.
I appreciate that point of view, totally. Anyone else on the board have comments on that?
I just have one quick question. Has there been any movement? This might be from Mike and Pam. Has there been any movement on the parcel of land on the corner of 117 and Forbush with that development?
No.
No,
No. Okay. It's extension of Tadmore, I think they wanted to. Didn't they
Yeah,
want to
they-
put in?
there's some preliminary plans, very schematic in nature of a mixed use development. I can't say that and nothing's been filed or reviewed with the town on a detailed basis, so it's kind of up in limbo right now.
Okay, I was
think
just
that
wondering
would
because
yeah, I thought about that as well. I think that would line up with where the proposed crosswalk is
yeah,
on the east side. So I don't know that additional stretch of sidewalk would make a difference.
okay. I was just throwing it out there, seeing if
Yeah.
that'd be the only but if Superintendent Downing there, I agree with that. You know, he knows the situation better than I do, so I'm okay with the way it stands.
Any other comments?
Oh, I agree with the superintendent. You know, I love sidewalks, but the thought of people stopping to drop off and pick up kids on Green Road in a high traffic period is not a great idea.
Okay, so that was one of the conditions. Were there any other conditions that were in dispute?
Pam, do you want to go back to the list?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. It's actually the next condition, number 10. The applicant is responsible for clearing all sidewalks of snow and ice along the frontage of Main Street and Green Road during construction and after completion of the project.
So, I mean, I think that what this means to say is that the school district wouldn't necessarily be responsible for clearing the sidewalks while the Rotary project is under construction. I think what they're saying is that while the school project is under construction, since the school project is going to continue being constructed for 3 years after this Rotary project is completed next summer. So I think that's what that means to say, right?
Right.
But then also that in perpetuity that the snow and ice along that sidewalk would need to be removed by the school district, and the school district has concerns with that, where it's not on school property and they're assuming the liability for clearing of sidewalks that are not part of their property. I don't know, Kirk or Joe, if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I'll jump in here, Mr. Malani, and certainly I brought Attorney Gleason with me this evening. He is the chair of our school building committee, so I thought he would have some interest in tonight's meeting. When on this particular condition with the sidewalk not being on school property, the issue comes with if an unforeseen event were to happen on that sidewalk, to what degree the school district would be liable, and to what degree our insurance carrier would even insure such a situation if the unforeseen were to happen. So I called our attorney today to get some guidance on that. And indeed, he said that when it comes to essentially the maintenance and the clearing of that sidewalk that is not on school property, that is not congruent with what is the norm and frankly, what we would be able to insure.
I think it's important to understand maybe the board does understand the history of why that sidewalk is being constructed. It's part of the Safe Streets grant from the town, and originally was going to be constructed as part of the beta plans. However, when with our plans having an off ramp from on the north side of the Rotary going to our main driveway, rather than having that closed off and then ripped out to be reconstructed when we were building that driveway in a couple of years. We traded off having the Rotary project assume the cost of putting that off ramp for us, so we could just butt our driveway up against the edge of the pavement and we would then add the sidewalk to our scope of work to offset the cost of what the town was assuming by putting in the off ramp. So it isn't that we were putting in the sidewalk by design of our project. It's part of the even though it's being built by our contractor, it is part of the grant program that the town is using to build the Rotary. We had at one point designed a different sidewalk that was on school property as part of when we assumed the construction of this. But because of the delays in the project for the Rotary and the need to have that construction completed by December of next, not this coming December, but December 2025, for the purpose of receiving the monies for the grant, as I understand, that needed to be put in outside of the limits of our current work, because the temporary parking area that we have on the site right now will not be available to be, regraded for that sidewalk that would be on school property by December of 2025. So the need to put it in as it was originally designed by Beta along the edge of Route 117 became the location for it, even though if it was put on school property and it was utilized as we had thought we could put it in around the trees, that would have been nice. However, that can't happen with the schedule that we have. So, and I'm certain that the district would be more than happy to have cleared the walk on school property. But where this is not on school property, it has that liability issue that they're assuming for a public walkway. Hope I wasn't too wordy there.
Oh, I think what, at the risk of repeating what you said, Joe, I think what's important to understand here is that our concern was if there was work done in the Rotary and there were road shutdowns and inconvenience to the public, that then at a later date, that the school project didn't then tear out new work that was part of the Rotary project. And so we have made a concerted effort here to coordinate with the DPW so that there isn't an inconvenience to the public, and try and have the most cost-effective approach here. So that was, in a nutshell, that was our concern. And so in trying to coordinate those efforts there so that folks aren't, in the community saying, you just built this, why are we ripping it out again? We don't understand this. Yeah. We were trying to avoid that whole issue of perception of lack of coordination.
Yeah. It just want to make it clear that the sidewalk that we're building wasn't because we wanted to take ownership of the sidewalk. It was simply a trade-off with the DPW to enable us to have a better solution for both of us to get the work done without having disruptions, Mary Ann said later on.
I think we understand why the sidewalk's part of your project and that it is a public way, but you also have a lot of internal sidewalks which connect to the small portion of the Main Street sidewalk, and I understand it is on the public way, but our DPW doesn't have the equipment or staff to plow the sidewalk, so we thought this condition was best for the safety of the school students that would be utilizing the campus and walking the sidewalk network that you proposed, and I think it presents more of a danger if we don't keep those sidewalks cleared, which may result in people trying to walk in a way, the public way on 117, which isn't safe either.
This is Craig from KBA. If I could speak, I think just to get at the root of this, and I don't want to speak for the superintendent or the district, but it's not an objection to not wanting to clear the sidewalk. It's the ability to insure themselves from a liability standpoint to that. And so, superintendent, if I'm misstating that, but that's the root of the objection is the ability to safely insure liability wise.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, since it isn't school district property, and it's analogous to if the sidewalk were to cross, say, onto private property, we wouldn't maintain that for private use either. It's while I hear that scenario entirely, it comes down to, you know, what is the responsibility and liability of the district in terms of clearing public roadways, and in this case, the easement of 117 of being town property. We just can't assume that liability is the issue at hand and wouldn't be insured for it.
I know there are a number of communities throughout Massachusetts which have this as a required bylaw, which require private property owners to keep clear sidewalks in front of their property. So this isn't an unheard of thing that we don't have it as a town bylaw. I do think it is something that maybe we should consider. I think sidewalks are an important part of pedestrian use of the areas. It's a big part of our master plan, and also obviously the Complete Streets program. So we want to make this infrastructure as usable as possible. And I think clearing the ways clear is an important part of it, especially since it connects to the network interior to the school site.
Pam, can I ask a question about that? In other cases in which people are required by bylaw or regulation to clear the public sidewalks in front of their residences, are they held responsible, liable for doing that? Do they accept the risk or have the risk forced upon them?
I can't speak about liability. And I don't know that it's uniform across every community, but I can speak to my experience, and the property owner is liable for the sidewalk in front of their property in terms of clearing it and making sure that pedestrians can utilize the area. And you are subject to fines if you don't adhere to the regulations.
Oh, is there a
this
way that we
requirement
can-
elsewhere?
Yes, that's elsewhere, not in Bolton.
No, I'm saying elsewhere in Bolton, is anyone else required to do this other than the school?
I don't know
Because
that it's
there are sidewalks other places in Bolton that,
right.
right?
Right.
So, but any of those people required to clear
I
their
think a lot of-
sidewalks?
I think a lot of the infrastructure where the sidewalks exist is old, and I don't know that there are any other projects which are required to do that.
If I may, and I'll defer to other people's competence here, but I'm just trying to look at this in a very logical fashion here, in that this isn't something that's in the bylaws, and there's a grant program that's been made available for the Rotary project, and the school district is being asked to assume liability for something that is part of the grant program, so that the town is benefiting from the grant program, but the school is being asked to assume the liability. And I'm having trouble reconciling it. It just might be me. But it's not in your bylaws, so I'm not sure how to understand this when, where, I don't know, it's the first time in my experience, where I've heard that somebody is taking responsibility for the liability of somebody else's property, but I don't know, I'll defer to others' competence here.
I mean, if
Well,
the sidewalk were shifted 10 feet towards the school, right, it's then school property. I mean, we're really just kind of arguing over a legalism at this point. And I don't know if there's some way to work through that. I'm not a lawyer. But it seems perfectly reasonable to me that the school, maintain and clear that sidewalk. They have the equipment, they'll be clearing off many other sidewalks in the school. This is just one more. And if it's a matter of, like working out the legal detail, that I think that's something we can look into. But I mean, I believe the school should maintain this sidewalk.
It's certainly the insurance companies wouldn't assume the liability, so it would be a liability that's uninsurable. As the owner's project manager, this is highly unusual. I haven't come across this in my 40-year career, but
There's
doesn't
never
mean
been a
you've been
sidewalk
everywhere.
in front of a school before? I mean,
No,
that's-
assuming a liability for the town, for town property versus school property. We understand that school property can be insured, but it'd be no different than saying, we'll put a sidewalk in front of the pizza place and you're responsible for clearing that, and that's not your property, and the insurance company wouldn't insure it either. But I'm not looking to be controversial here. I'm looking at it from a practical point of view.
I don't know that requiring you to shovel the sidewalk would create a liability issue, but I'm not an attorney.
Well, running along the lines that Mike Gore just suggested, why don't we just cede the sidewalk to the school?
Can't do that. It's a state highway.
It's not a state highway.
Mr. Chair, do you mind?
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to bring in Attorney Gleason with some thoughts.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, and I apologize because I know this Rotary project has been ongoing for some time, and I probably should have posed this to our consultants from KBA and Skanska earlier, but just to add an additional legal wrinkle to this particular issue regarding the clearance of a sidewalk within a state, within a public way. And I would guess I would refer this question to the planning board director. Is that entire portion of 117 that runs in front of the high school, is any of that maintained by Mass DOT, or is that all within the jurisdiction of the town of Bolton, given that it is a state highway?
It's not a state highway, it's a town-owned roadway. It's only state jurisdictional around the 495 interchange on 117. Otherwise, it's owned and maintained by the town of Bolton.
That's what I was asking. So that's all within the jurisdiction. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm not sure how best to move forward on this one. I mean, again, that as Pam mentioned, the town does not plow other sidewalks. There are sidewalks on Main Street. I assume the residents are responsible for plowing those. I believe the school should be responsible for maintaining this sidewalk as well. It's a benefit to the students of the school to use that sidewalk to get back and forth. And so I feel that this condition should be left in. Now, if there's a legal issue with it, I mean, I'm happy to help work that out or find some solution to it. I mean, it really doesn't seem like it should be that big of a sticking point. I understand the liability portion of it, but the school is going to be plowing and maintaining other sidewalks.
I don't think that this, as Craig said, that, and Rob Frieswick, the facilities director, is on the call too, I believe. I don't think that it was ever a question of the extra time it will take to clear the sidewalk. I mean, it is a big sidewalk. It's a 10-foot wide sidewalk. But I don't think that was ever the question. The question was simply, is the school taking, liability on for public land by doing this? And if it can be resolved that that's not the case and they're indemnified from that liability, then I would think that there wouldn't be any objection. But I don't think anyone on the call tonight has that ability. I know, Kirk, you said you spoke to Attorney Mello earlier?
Yeah, I spoke with district council on this, and Mr. Chair, I agree with you. I don't think the issue is about whether the school district willing or wants to maintain snow and ice on the sidewalk. That's not the issue. The issue is around maintaining the liability of public lands, and that is the issue that's underneath. And as this is a condition under which we're seeking approval, it then documents into the record that we're taking on that liability and responsibility. And as a school district, we don't have the authority to do that. So that's where the sticking point is. So it's not around who will clear the sidewalk. And I think we've illustrated we're good partners with the town of Bolton when it comes to such things. It's documenting it in the conditions, thus setting into the record, we're taking ownership of that. And that's just what we're having a hard time with.
So understood. And
Chairman, if I could say something, Craig from KBA.
sure, go
I
ahead.
think the difference from when we think about other towns having this, and that is typically in other towns, the property is a town property or a city property, where Neshoba Regional isn't a Bolton property. So there's a difference there as far as that standpoint is it's not part of the town of Bolton. And so I think it's a little bit different from an entity of the town is all covered liability umbrella wise from that standpoint, where Neshoba is a separate district from the town of Bolton. And that's where the line is. If I'm misspeaking, but that's the way I would understand it.
Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But I mean, we have other sidewalks in town along Main Street that the town does not plow. And while we don't have a bylaw requiring that, those sidewalks are in the right of way and people maintain them. So, I'd like to find a way forward here tonight because I think you guys want approval. Pam, do you want to say something?
No, I just want to be, when we say maintain, we're only referring to plow, removing snow and ice from the walkable area. I just want to be clear on that.
And if we can,
along that lines with, you were worried about safety of students, whether it's plowed or not, are gonna walk up that driveway and try to get to the, Classic Pizza or whatever, so if you're worried about safety, I think, plowing, clearing those walkways is an important feature.
I don't think
again,
anybody has, I don't
Yeah.
think anybody has an issue about maintaining and plowing. I think the issue is about assuming liability for town property and as a requirement, and that would be something you folks would have to confirm, but if there's a requirement of the grant that for the Rotary, that there be a sidewalk and that it be maintained to shift it to the school project. We have no problem being good neighbors and clearing snow. It's being asked to assume liability for town property. That's really the clear cut and cut issue, and it's not stated in your bylaws. So, I mean, we can be folksy about it and say, yeah, we're good neighbors and we'll clear the snow, but it really comes down to the legal issue that we cannot insure the property for this. And if an insurer says, we can't cover you here, it wouldn't prevent us from trying to clean up the sidewalk, but it puts the school district in a whole other situation where now we're assuming the liability of the town for a grant requirement that doesn't benefit the school.
I know of no grant requirement which requires the sidewalks be plowed, so we're not trying to defer that condition on to you. I just think it's a good idea for sidewalk connections like this to remain cleared, especially since this is one of the most highly utilized sites in the town of Bolton. Our intention is.
So if there's no issue about it being cleared and we said, sure, we'll clear it, but the liability would still remain with the town. I mean, in my mind, that would be the most appropriate resolution, because you're asking for it to be cleared. We don't have a problem with clearing it. It's assuming legal liability is where the issue is.
Yeah.
Again, our intention is not for the property owner to take liability for town property. It's to provide for an increased safety path of travel for the students and faculty utilizing the site. There are various sidewalk connections which lead to this parcel, and I know that there's particularly after school pedestrian travel, which would probably utilize a lot of this sidewalk connectivity, and so it seemed like the best avenue was to require it to be cleared, knowing that our DPW didn't have the capability to do it. So it was more of a safety request than trying to shift liability to anyone. I don't know that a bylaw would shift liability either. It's just simply a requirement to clear the area.
we're kind of spinning our wheels here because none
Yeah.
of us
Yeah.
have the legal authority to
Yeah.
say one way or the other. I don't know if there's any way to either table this item until we can resolve it through legal, consultation, or how we do this.
Yeah, so-
but
so
I don't want
let
I don't
me-
want the district to be strong-armed into doing this and agreeing to it to their detriment, but I also don't want to hold up the process.
Right. I mean, I don't want us to have to go to our town council and wait another 2 weeks to approve these conditions here. What I would suggest is, I mean, I think we can all agree that during the construction phase of this project, you will be responsible for clearing ice and snow. I don't think there's any disagreement about that, right? Like, this is an active construction project. You'll be doing all sorts of things. You would maintain any sidewalk that's there.
This is no, actually. The areas outside of the construction fence are still the responsibility of the owner to maintain and clear. So and since this isn't within our construction area, this would not be cleared by the contractor. This would still be cleared by the district as a part of their requirement to do.
I just want to say that we're a little sticky on this, but the reason why is if anybody's driven up and down 495 or around Boston, you've seen the billboards up about slip and fall accidents and slip and fall lawyer cases. So this is why we're pushing back on this.
Pam, is there some wording we can put into this? Contingent upon town council working stuff out. I mean, I think we're all on the same page that the school will be happy to maintain, shovel the snow and ice. Right. It's just they want to find some ways of indemnifying themselves. And if we can word this such that, they clear it based on our discussion with town council. I don't know. I'm trying to think of,
Yeah.
or is there
I
a
just
condition
wanna-
we can add in? I mean, again, like this, the school's not going anywhere. They are good neighbors. Maybe is there some formal process that we could either amend it or make it a condition later on once the construction's finished? I just want to find a way forward here tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we can condition it without having to contact town council, which I know will result in the town incurring an expense, which we're trying to avoid. I don't
So
have
if we-
I don't have authority to authorize that.
No, understood,
Yeah.
understood. And if we approve this without that condition in there, what sort of position does that put us in?
The sidewalks probably wouldn't be cleared.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's the case, Pam. I think, and to be clear here, there's nothing in the statement in front of us that says that the school is accepting liability for those walks. And like you said, I would hope that it would simply be stated that, that the district will remove ice and snow from the walks, but accepts no liability for its, for any incidental accidents or anything like that happen on the sidewalk. It's, I mean, you can consider that, someone's walking down that sidewalk on a Saturday afternoon or late at night on a Saturday for whatever reason, and it's sleeting, ice, and snow out, and they slip and fall on the sidewalk. Well, if it's a public sidewalk, then guess what? It's your own fault for slipping on the public sidewalk. But in terms of whether or not, Rob Frieswick is out there spreading, no melt onto it or ice melt onto it at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday because we're afraid of being sued because we've taken on liability, that's a different issue. And we don't have someone there that's there 24/7 monitoring the sidewalk to prevent us being sued for for accidents that can happen on a public way. I think that, so if there could be something added to the statement to just say that, you know, the school is responsible for clearing the walks, but is not responsible for accidents there too, then something like that would be fine. I mean, we're writing these conditions. I don't know why we can't write something like that in, since there isn't a bylaw you're violating by doing that.
Mr. Malani, I'm going to jump in here for a second, and I'm going to ask the chair for your consideration on this. I know that it's important that we move on with these conditions and get to the point of approval here. And I'm going to ask the chair's consideration that condition be strucken, in the effort of can then come to the table and discuss how we want that handled in the future. Because I think coming to that decision at this pressure point, it potentially could force us into a bad decision. Again, I have to go upon district council's advice, and district council's advice is not to assume responsibility for public ways. And if I were to make any comment beyond that, I would be going against my own council's advice. And so I think I just need to leave it there on behalf of our entire team, that we need to take the advice of our council on this particular matter.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And so, I mean, I think we have a lot of time here before there is actually a sidewalk built. So I don't think this is of the effort. But Pam, I guess the question is, you know, how do we go and enforce something later on? I mean, I assume there must be some way of, if we can talk to town council and we can come to some agreement, is there just...
No, I think that after we make a decision, it's a done deal, unless the town adopts a bylaw which requires clearing of sidewalks and public
I'm
ways.
really talking about more of a deal with the school. Is that with the district?
We would have no way. I don't know that we can bring them back in a year without requiring another public hearing and review. I don't know how you would do that.
Superintendent, did you have another question, or is your hand just still up from the last time?
Forgive me, Mr. Chair, didn't take it down.
Okay. Well, we seem to be at an impasse right now. I'll welcome input from other members of the board.
I mean, just a general question, you know, liability. I mean, what if it's somebody trips on a crack in the walkway in the middle of the summer? I mean, isn't it the same concern? Like, I guess there's a higher concern with snow, but like, you know, I guess.
I think we would assume that because it is a town-owned piece of land and town sidewalk, as I said before, just because we're constructing it for the town, we don't claim ownership of this sidewalk. That if someone trips and falls on a crack or, you know, a raised panel or something like that in the sidewalk, that would be responsibility of the town and not of the district.
Whereas if this is
I think the response is, we don't know the answer to that question without advice from council, and I don't want to speculate on those particular things.
That's fine.
Just thinking about coming back in a year to resolve the sidewalk issue outside the public forum, just for a discussion with the planning board about the possibility of requiring clearing.
Well, why would it have to be a year, Pam?
Just
why couldn't it be next month or next week?
It could be. I was just thinking the sidewalk would be constructed by then, and we'd be heading into winter, so the issue would be resolved.
Yeah, but we could resolve it way before then.
And then we can also tie it to the completion of the construction, which was required to be done.
I think the bottom line here is whether or not, and I don't think that the planning board's goal here or the district's goal here is to hold up this project based on the requirement to clear snow off a sidewalk. We've already said that the district will clear the snow off the sidewalk. We just want to be not liable for damages that occur from that. I think that this doesn't tell us that we're responsible for that, but we would have to have, if we could say, pending review from legal counsel or something like that. I just don't want to have us come to an impasse here, as the chair said, that we can't move forward with this project to the benefit of the entire community because we're waiting to figure out who clears snow off a sidewalk.
I think your point's well taken, Joe.
Yeah.
So I would just ask and invite us to come to a decision here where we can move forward together and
I think
come to a
Pam was
resolution. I
typing it
think
in
there's
now.
I think there's good faith here on all parties' parts, and that I don't think we need an order of conditions to tell us to be a good neighbor here and work towards the concerns of people not slipping on snow. I agree with the superintendent's prior comment about perhaps we strike this and let us move forward here with the project. And
well, I think Pam has just updated Pam has updated the thing. Yeah. So it's,
let's,
fine.
so we've been going at this for a while now. So,
Yep.
so Pam has added some language that,
Yep.
do you want to add something about town council also, Pam, just in conference with town council also?
Yeah, I just can't guarantee I can contact council about this. That's the only thing.
Yeah. I just don't want to see us be penny wise and pound foolish. We have an incredible opportunity here with the Mass School Building Authority that serves 3 communities, and we can't move forward here.
No, I
think that's fine.
Yep. Is everyone okay with what Pam's just put in there?
I can read it if you'd like. I don't know
Go
how
ahead, Pam.
clearly it's shown. The applicant is responsible for clearing all sidewalks. I can add in good faith if that kind of decreases the responsibility. The applicant is responsible for clearing all sidewalks of snow and ice along the frontage of Main Street and Green Road during construction and after completion of the project, pending the school district and/or town council's determination the district would not be liable. And I can put for any injuries, for any incidences that may occur in the public way.
Is that acceptable?
That's totally honest.
It still requires the councils to get together
Joe,
and come to a
Joe,
decision.
I'll speak on the district on this question. I can't come to agreement to that statement without council. I think the request is just to strike the statement entirely. The issue isn't that we don't want safe passageways for anyone. The complexity of responsibility of clearance is more than just on a given school day. The late storm that comes in on a Friday night, the sudden ice storm that comes in on a Saturday afternoon, we're beholden to making sure those pathways are clear for the function of school. And it's just it's too broad, and this is where we're stuck on that conditioned.
We do put conditions like this in other determinations, and I mean I think the question here is like, this just gives us a chance to talk to town council, to our town council about this, and find some way forward. Again,
I can add during school hours or when it's in session.
But it doesn't solve the general issue. So this is I don't know of an example where a public entity can forcibly have a school district clear town property. I don't know where there is a precedence for that as a condition for construction of a building.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
forcing a play as opposed to having a well thought ordinance or motion within the town of what all parties are required to do. Otherwise, the school district is being treated differently than all other businesses and residences of the town in regards to how they treat their passageways by virtue of being in a butter to the public roadway. And I just think we're getting into really tricky waters by trying to forcibly put the school district in that position.
So the updated language is not acceptable to the district then?
Yeah, again, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that it be stricken from the conditions so that we could proceed on with this incredibly valuable project to the community, with the knowledge of our mission of safety for students. That is our primary responsibility, and we will do everything we need to in responsibility of that. But to put a condition in that forcibly puts the school district in that position, I just don't think is treating the school district equitably with all other elements and parties of the town.
Okay, so in the interest of moving this along, we are already striking condition 9 about the extension, and I'll recommend that we strike condition 10, and we will try to come back with on one hand, if we don't put the condition in, basically we're saying the town is not going to clear this. And I mean, I hope you guys will clear it, and it sounds like you will. So maybe it's just the concern of having the language in here like this. But we'll confer with our town council after at some point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so with those 2 conditions removed, are there any other concerns in the document of conditions?
I don't recall, Pam, were the other ones we wanted to update? Do you remember?
We just increased the light pole height from
To
20 feet to 3,
inches.
add an extra 3 inches for the base, height of the
Yeah.
base.
Oh.
And then there was a no bus entry sign that we suggested in the conditions for the Westerly Main Street driveway. And I made that requirement more broad based on upon our discussion about who would
Okay.
be utilizing
Right,
that entrance to,
because it's more
simply
than
say it's
just the buses, yeah.
yeah, it's condition 20, and it was revised to state that install a sign discouraging pedestrian vehicle use of the Westerly Main Street driveway.
Yes, yep. And
And
Eric and I have had discussions, and we'll come up with something with the district on how to restrict access. It does have multiple uses besides buses, for deliveries and the special education program and pre-K drop off. We want to make sure we're not, excluding anybody there, but it is primarily.
Yeah, that
to
sign was
drop off the
suggested in
buses.
your traffic impact study, so that's where the wording came from. But if you want to amend it, I have no issue with agreeing to that.
Yep.
And then the other condition that was amended from the original draft was that an as-built was required to be submitted upon within 3 months of the issuance of an occupancy permit, and we changed that to read after completion of construction, because there's still a significant amount of site work that will be occurring after the building is occupied. So that only made sense to revise.
Yep.
To comply with that completion.
Yeah, I think the rest of it, we pretty much either have in our spec, have in our drawings, or are perfectly happy in providing. Yep.
Hi, this is Craig from KBA. I just have one thing, and I thank you, Ms. Harding, for the 20-foot 3 inches. As you understand, the pole base. I would only bring up this only because the construction tolerance is if we could have a buffer of a couple inches in addition to that, because the 20-foot pole is on a 3-foot basis. We've set it 20-foot 6 just to provide a construction tolerance buffer. We would hate to have to deal with them being an inch off on their pole base and not be in compliance. But our detail does have them just being at 20'3".
3 inches, yeah. It's all in the mulch.
If the board's fine with that, I have no issue with increasing it 6 inches.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Any other comments on the order of conditions? Hearing none. So Pam, this is not a hearing, so are we closing this? This is a
You don't
public
need to
meeting?
close it. No, it's
Okay.
just a public meeting. It's not a hearing.
So I will make a motion to recommend approval of the site plan review for 12 Green Road with the term order of conditions as amended tonight.
Can I
Second,
just add to your motion, Mike,
Oh,
that we want to
yes.
specifically delete condition 9 and 10, just so it's clear for the record?
Sure. Yeah, deleting conditions as amended, deleting conditions 9 and 10.
second,
Michael Gore,
Aye.
James Barr,
aye,
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
and Austin. You missed 2 hearings, so you're not eligible to vote. Okay, so the motion passes. The site plan is approved by a motion of 4-0.
Mr. Chair, may I be recognized? I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, and the entire planning board for this deliberative and thoughtful discussion tonight. I want to thank Ms. Harding for her time and conversation with our consultants in this process. This is a great moment for us as we're going to bring a state-of-the-art school to our community. And we have more loopholes that we need to jump through that are all there for good reasons. But Mr. Chair, just wanted, on behalf of the entire school system and the school committee and our school building committee, thank you for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Good luck,
Thank you.
everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bob needs to drop in a few minutes. So we had the next items of business are review and vote on the 2035 master plan and the 2024 open space and recreation plan. Bob, I guess Bob, you can vote on that one. Even though you're here.
I hope so. He did all the work.
I'm not biased at all.
So I don't know if there was any discussion that people had on this. I mean, hopefully people got a chance to at least watch the open space recreation meeting that Pam did with Concom. I think as far as the master plan goes, we've been talking about that and seeing portions of that for years at this point. So I don't believe there were any comments from anyone in there. So if there's no other, well, first let me open. Is there any discussion on either the master plan or let's start with the master plan first. No? Okay. Pam, you just need a motion of approval for the
Yeah,
whole plan?
yes, the master plan's under jurisdiction of the planning board, and it requires your approval before we can send it to EOHLC.
Okay.
So I request that you make a motion to approve the 2035 Town of Bolton master plan.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the 2035 Town of Bolton master plan.
I'll second that.
Good job, Bob.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
James Barr,
aye,
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Austin Groner.
Aye.
Yay, it's official.
Good work, Bob.
Thank
And
you
Pam.
all.
Nice job.
And Pam in particular, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
thank you, Bob.
Great work.
Start working
The
on the
map-
next one
the-
now.
Yeah,
Tony
right.
is.
The maps in those are they're just so helpful to see the parcels in town. So it's worth it for that alone for me. So great work. And now, any questions on the open space and recreation plan? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve. Well, so are we doing a letter of recommendation? Is that what this
You
is,
just
Pam?
do it. So, DCS has jurisdiction over open space and recreation plans, and they require the planning board provide a letter of support and recommendation that the plan be accepted.
I make a motion that we provide a letter of recommendation and support for the Conservation Committee's 2024 Bolton Open Space and Recreation Plan.
Second.
I do have a draft of a letter if you, I don't know if you wanna, we're moving along, so I don't know if you wanna look
Yeah.
at it or not.
That's fine.
Okay.
I trust your verbiage.
Okay, so I'm sorry. While I was
I think
looking at
Bob
we
had a
have a
second.
second? Okay.
Yeah,
Michael
Bob.
Gore,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
James Barr,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Austin Groner.
Aye.
Okay, we have a vote to issue a letter of support for the 2024 Bolton Open Space and Recreation Plan. That's great. Thank you.
So folks, regretfully, I believe it or not, I actually have another meeting. So I have to leave.
Bob has a cooler meeting to go to, so
So
yeah,
late at
thanks.
night.
Again, thanks for all your work on these, Bob.
Okay, right.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Bye.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. Next item is a review of possible zoning bylaw changes. So, I think because that last meeting ran so long, let's talk about the accessory dwelling unit one tonight.
Haven't.
And
I'm just gonna bring it, if it's okay for now, I'll just bring up the questions because I think those are important,
Perfect.
how we
Yep.
draft the revisions.
Exactly.
So as you know, we're required to allow 900 square foot accessory apartments, whether they're detached or attached, by right in all residential zoning districts. So we have to amend our existing ADU, which the sizes don't align, so there are some amendments we have to make. So I created a list of questions on how to proceed with the revisions. One of them was, should 900 square feet attached or detached be allowed by right without site plan?
You have
Currently,
to
we
do that
don't.
though, right?
No, we can require site plan. We can't require special permit. So our detached ADU accessory apartments require special permit of any size. So the question is, do we want to require site plan? If
So
they're
what would-
900 square feet or smaller.
Site plan would just be they come to us, they show us what they're doing, but can we deny it? Like, I guess I don't
No,
understand.
typically you just review site conditions. You can, so similar to what you were doing for the special permit for detached ADUs, you
Mhm.
review how the grading is, where the site's going, determining if the common driveway accesses both units correctly, that type of thing.
So is the purpose for us to just provide guidance or recommendations, or I guess what
No,
is,
you would act on you can't typically deny a site plan for any reason because the use is determined to be allowed, but you
Right.
do have control over the site development. So things like grading, traffic flow, site distance, that type of thing.
okay.
I think it's a bad idea. It puts another, set of eyes on it.
So I'm kind of the personally, my mindset is that if it's allowed by right, it should be allowed by right, and we shouldn't put conditions on it. We could certainly have something in there that says site plan approval that can be waived at the board's pleasure. I don't know.
I think we could also do it similar to what you do the way the shared driveway bylaw is written, where it doesn't necessarily require a public hearing and filing, but you can review it at a meeting and make a determination if you feel a filing is necessary. Um,
I think that was the first one of those we've ever done was the
it's
was the
it's written
Forbush.
it's written
That's
to
how it's
allow
written.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess that's
but I
fine.
don't, if you haven't found it necessary so far, particularly for the attached,
No, I mean,
it
I don't know that any attached have ever come before us. I don't think so. We've had 2 detached, maybe.
That sounds right.
yeah, you've had,
Um,
I've seen one come through, so that was fairly recent on Still
yeah,
River
and
Road.
there was one, yeah, one before you were here also.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't have a super strong opinion on this. So let's kind of we'll punt on that one for now. I
Okay.
mean, worst case is we leave it in and we just don't, we basically never review them. I mean, that again, that's how it's been with shared driveways until until last meeting. Um, the so let's talk about the gross floor area. So do we not have a maximum in there right now?
Not for
Oh,
attached. There's a
oh,
maximum
for
on
attached.
detached, yeah.
Uh,
So it's 1/3 the floor area for attached, and then there's no maximum if it's attached to the single family home.
yeah.
So theoretically, you could have a separate entrance and have it attached as a single family. And it could be another 2,000 square feet if it's on attached to a large
Does
6,000
an
square
in-law?
foot house.
Yeah. Does like an in-law suite count as an ADU? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so when someone, I'm trying to think of the last time I've seen new construction with a in-law apartment in it.
Those don't go to you either. So we have approved one by building permit, and it was conversion of an ADU in a basement.
Okay.
It wasn't
So do
terribly large.
yeah, do you do that or is that the building inspector?
The building inspector sends it to various departments for review, and I signed off on it as a use
Okay.
allowed by right.
Okay.
And then he issues the actual permit.
Yeah. But I mean, I think I've made my preferences clear over the last year or so is that like I in general don't want to put as few restrictions as possible on people who want to build either attached or detached ADUs. I think they're a great use of additional space for people. It gives people options for whether they want to make some extra income from renting out a place, if they have older child who wants to live it, an older parent or parents who want to move into it. I think those uses are just awesome. I wish I had one in my house. So I'm of the mind that we should be pretty permissive with this, but I'm open to people's concerns about we should probably have some size restriction on a detached just because you don't want someone building a second house on their property. So I think that's totally fine. I guess the question then, Pam, is do we want to do a special permit for larger detached ADUs?
Yeah. So right now we require a special permit for ADUs that are detached. They can be up to 1,200 square feet. We can no
Yep.
longer do that for detached up to 900 square feet. So that leaves a window of 901 square feet to 1,200 square feet for us to require a special permit.
Yeah.
And if we want to amend that 1,200 square feet, that's what it is now. I don't know what kind of public input was received when this was amended. And if people had concerns with the square footage.
Almost none. I presented that at town meeting and I don't think we had a single question on it. I don't think
Okay.
anyone had concerns in our public meetings for it. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we did.
No, I don't
Um,
think there were any questions. I mean, I assume, when they build these detached units, they have to follow setbacks and, to property lines and all that stuff is in place. I'm trying to think if there's something that isn't already written down that, we would catch in a special permit process. That isn't just kind of like slowing it down, like Mike's saying. Like,
What else can go wrong in these cases?
yeah,
Well-
exactly.
That's my question.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was saying. Is there something that the special permit catches that isn't already being caught by whatever is already in the bylaws?
Mhm.
I think it was a good catch when we had occupancy requirements, but we can no longer do that. Because you can require the necessary recording at the registry of deeds that an occupant live in the home or the unit, and we can't require that for ADUs 900 square feet or less. I don't think if we're taking it away for the smaller ones, I don't see.
I wouldn't do it for larger ones either. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to have a
I don't see
completely
why.
different set of rules for, for the extra 300 square feet like that. That just
Yeah.
seems kind of silly. I mean, we could do the, just have them all in site plan review, where that gives us the ability to review them. I mean, maybe that's the problem with special permit, I think, is it becomes a cost burden, right? Like you have to pay to advertise in the newspaper, you have to pay to send stuff to abutters. I imagine there's X number of copies of whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, and so is a site plan review less burdensome than that, Pam?
Not really. Not the way we have it set up. We can make it that way. The only difference
Yeah.
is it's not a site plan review under our current reg still requires 2 weeks advertising, a butter notification, and a public meeting. But you can create
But we can waive it is the point. Like we can't waive a special permit. I think is
right.
that right?
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I think that we should kind of like the first one we talked about. We have a site plan review for it, but we can waive it. And that seems to give us the best flexibility of hey, if something looks fishy, we can look at it and have input on it
With the site plan.
with a site plan review.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
And now I guess back to Pam, the original question, we can't reject the site plan review. So it does having that
Well-
in there. Go ahead.
You can't reject the use if there's something on the site plan that you come to an impasse about that creates some sort of public safety issue. It would have to be pretty severe. And I can't really think of an instance where I've come across that.
Yeah. And I think if we cap the size, especially of the detached ADU, I mean, that's really the biggest thing, I think. I mean, what can you do with a 1,200 square foot place? I mean, it can't be that crazy.
Okay, so we want to keep the the categories then as defined in the draft. Which was the ADU, which we have to adopt, which is 900 square feet. A large attached ADU at the 1/3 of the gross floor area of the home, and then the
Yep.
detached with a maximum of 1,200 square feet. We want
Yes.
to keep that criteria, but then eliminate all the special permit requirements and change it to site plan for all 3 categories, or just detached.
Well, we can't do it for the first category.
Right. Yes,
Um,
you can.
and-
You can do site plan for the first. You can't do
but not-
special
but
permit.
yeah, not special permit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I guess the question is there any reason to treat any of these differently? I mean, I feel like we should just have one uniform, policy, I guess.
I mean, if we adopt a broader bylaw than what so that's I mean, I guess that's effectively what we're doing, right? By right, site plan review, up to 1,200 square feet detached.
Yeah.
1/3 gross area. Although, does because the state says 900 square foot maximum, if we say 1/3, is it the larger of, is that?
No,
Are
we
we
can't
right?
do that. So we have to adopt the state's definition of an accessory dwelling unit, which includes
Yeah.
that 900 square feet or smaller. It's
Yeah.
900 square feet or half the gross floor area of a single family home, or whichever is smaller. So we have to adopt that. We can't change it, but we can adopt additional definitions on top of that, which allow larger units, but we have to call them something else, which is what I did in the draft of the red line version.
Yeah, so Austin, I think we just, for legal purposes, that's what we do.
Understood. Okay.
I think that's fine. I'm good with that.
Okay, I'll fix those things because that's not how it was represented in the bylaw. I wanted to go over these questions as I was drafting it, and then I'll get a cleaner version out to you for review.
Okay. So let's hold off on the Fosbrid, just because I think that could probably use its own meeting, and it's already pretty late. And I know Bob will have some input on that. So let's and then the scenic bylaw, the road names, I mean, that's straightforward, right? Just we have the wrong road names in there.
Yeah, there's a wrong MGL reference and wrong road name, so we just want to clarify to omit the wrong road. There's town roads referenced and they don't exist, so they were just incorrectly, I don't know what happened, honestly, but they were incorrectly adopted. So
can you scroll as he's going through?
I don't. Yeah. That's.
I'll pull it up.
Well, I just thought it was in this list that you were showing.
It's not on this document, I don't think.
I remember seeing some list of potential bylaws.
Yeah, that was in well, so there's the Google Drive link that Pam sent, and this was in the document that she has open right now, was the more detailed summary agenda that she sent in one of her emails. It's okay, but I mean, let's just kind of keep moving here, because again, it's just some of the road names are wrong, so we just amend those.
Yeah, it's really not much to that.
Yeah, nothing to discuss.
It's done.
So let's stick with just that right now for agenda item 4, which is the review of possible zoning bylaw changes. I think we've got a good definition for the ADU changes that we want. The next item on the agenda was the release of driveway security for 100 Meadow.
Mike, can I just add one more thing on that other one? Just to add to the list to talk about in the future is I would like to bring back looking at the business versus residential property, the zoning matching the property lines on maybe the less contentious properties.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That, Eric, I wanted to ask you about that because it looks like there was an attempt to do that in 2019 or 2020. I can't remember, and it failed town meeting.
Yeah, it failed mainly because of Bolton Capital property, because that's, I think, like 13 acres and a bunch of it's zoned residential, and people are worried that if the bulk of that got zoned business, that there would be the threat of it's selling off and maybe losing that property, like the house and stuff. But I think there's less, and I think that's mainly why it got voted down, is because of that one. But there's definitely less contentious ones, like I'm interested in the gas station has the residential and business zone right through the middle, so they can't really read it.
You say that's not contentious, but that one's going to be contentious when people realize that, like, you're effectively giving them permission to build a new gas station there by doing that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So,
but there's other ones like Bolton Woods Way is like partially zoned industrial, that could be switched to residential. I'm just saying, let's talk about it.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely worth doing.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a busy town meeting.
Yeah,
We've been holding back for 3 or 4 years.
true.
I don't want to be the one to bring it all to fruition.
Okay.
Apropos of our previous discussion, just one quick one. Is it worth us discussing what, I get the issue with the sidewalk for the high school? I mean, it sounds like there are some towns that do that sort of thing, but I guess, yeah, is this something we could discuss, I guess, further?
We can, yes.
Okay.
That would be a town bylaw, which would be proposition by the select board. It'd probably have to be supported by them. But it is something we can bring to their attention if it was something the board wanted to get additional information on.
Yeah, I have some questions I'd like to ask at a later date.
Yeah, let's table the discussion of the high school sidewalk. Again, I mean, I know where they were coming from on that, but like at the end of the day, we're not gonna plow it. They probably will. And so, but Pam, we can work offline with town council just to figure out what the right thing to do was. Okay. Anything else on zoning bylaws?
No, we have to adopt a new floodplain bylaw. We were supposed to do it in 2020, actually. So it's been long overdue, and we have a model we have to go by. So we have to delete our existing bylaw and replace it with the model. And then we also have to reference new maps, which will be released hopefully in early 2025. For the portion of Bolton, I believe that's in the Nashua River watershed.
Okay. So again, we can sort of discuss the other ones in a later meeting.
Sure.
So the next item was the driveway security for 100 Meadow Road. Pam, you wrote in your notes that you recommend holding this until the spring. And so I think for people's knowledge, this was one of the problem parcels over on Meadow Road. And what the DPW wants to make sure it doesn't ice over the winter.
Yeah, there was some runoff issues from the driveway. It's a long winding driveway. Associated with new home construction. We had a lot of runoff that occurred last spring. They've done a lot to rectify the situation, but we haven't had severe rain events to witness whether the storm system has been, whether the runoff has been completely rectified. And also it required some maintenance. So we want to ensure that it was maintained and that the solutions that they implemented in the spring are effective so the road doesn't ice over the winter months. So they requested release, which they're entitled to do, but we're recommending that we hold on to the $1,000 security to ensure that the runoff doesn't affect the public way.
You want us to take a vote on that?
Yeah, I would like it if you could take a vote just to, I would recommend that we hold the driveway security for 100 Meadow Road until the spring months to ensure icing doesn't occur on the public way.
Okay. Any comments from anyone else? Okay. I will make a motion that we hold the driveway security fund for 100 Meadow Road until a later date in the spring when we can verify that no icing and runoff issues are happening on the property.
Second.
Michael Gore?
Aye.
James Barr?
Aye.
Eric Nyland?
Aye.
Austin Groner?
Aye.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Next item of business is evaluation of solar decommissioning report. So Pam, maybe you can give an overview of what we need to do here.
Sure. There was a solar field approved by the board approximately 10 years ago. We entered into a decommissioning agreement, which requires the applicant to provide us with surety to ensure if the site, if they were to go bankrupt or the site was to be abandoned, that the town had sufficient funds to take down the site and return it to its natural conditions. So as part of that, the applicant provided a good chunk of funds up front, and then every year they've been depositing a fee into that account, an amount of $5,000. And the agreement calls for the account and the cost to be reevaluated at the 10-year mark. And so that 10-year time period has come to fruition, and they are requesting that the board release them from requiring any additional deposits into the current account. It's an interest-bearing savings account that the town holds, and that they provided a third-party report about the decommissioning costs, proving that we have sufficient fundings to secure the decommissioning should they default. So we have approximately $340,000 in the account right now. They show that we would make sufficient profit from the sale of the solar panels that exist on the site, just for recycling and reuse, the metals recycling, that type of thing, which we are allowed to consider, and that the $340,000 is sufficient. This agreement wouldn't be reevaluated for another 10 years.
So this is the solar field behind the transfer station, correct?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the solar, yeah, it's part of the Bolton Orchards property is 4.95 megawatts.
Yeah, so you guys can see that on Google Earth. So
It's
basically,
located at 125 Still River Road is the official filing address.
we have approximately $40,000 in that account. They gave us a report saying that in
I can pull it up. Hold on.
yeah. They believe it would cost $520,000 today if we were to, if we had to disassemble that. And then I think what they're saying is that
Here's
we
the
would,
accounting sheet here. Sorry.
yeah, I think up above it, they said we would salvage the value of the material is almost $850,000 today. So they're saying that we would have that profit of between the 340, the 850 minus the 520. Am I getting that, reading that right, Pam?
Yeah, they're saying we would actually end up with a profit of the 328.
Who is telling us that we can sell it for that amount of money? Is the company telling us?
They had,
Kimley, yeah.
yeah,
Kimley Horn.
Kimley Horn, they were required, the decision required a third-party cost analysis be submitted to the town. So they were hired by the applicant. We didn't have approval of that consultant. And I did discuss with them peer review. They weren't actually willing to submit the funds. It was going to cost approximately $2,500 to have another firm review this report. So we didn't have the funds in hand to incur that, and they weren't willing to give us additional funds. So I reached out to a few abutting communities and obtained additional decommissioning reports just for comparison purposes, and it does seem in line with what they provided.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
quite awesome.
I was just gonna say, I think that's good enough for me, as long as we feel it's independent and fair.
How do we, like, do we even know how we would go about doing that? As a third party would go and sell it? Like, what's the process to even doing that? And like, how do we know in 10 to 20 years when it is decommissioned that whatever
We'd all
materials
get
we
some
use-
wrenches, and then we'd just throw the stuff right in the metal bucket at the
Right, but
transfer station.
like, you know,
Right.
there could be a new technology where those things are basically worthless. I mean, I'm sure there's some rare earths in there, but like,
There
Yeah,
could be, yeah.
It's a good
Yeah.
point, and it also depreciates in value, you know, I would
Pam,
imagine.
could you
Like,
scroll up a little bit?
I almost feel like, you know, cash in hand is the way to go, but if we're gonna be responsible, I mean, we always end up short on money.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Keep going. Was that all right? So go down.
This-
I'm sorry.
That's
There was
okay.
a thing in there for $3.50 a pound.
Oh, and,
Right. Oh no, right there. No, it was up.
Yeah.
okay,
scroll up.
sorry. There,
No worries.
Yeah, where they give a
All right.
value
So
per
the
ton of
price.
steel. Yeah.
the recycling market's so volatile, it's
Yeah.
not,
So
I
it's
don't
the
know when we,
copper.
yeah, when we enter into future agreements, I don't know that we should consider recycling salvageable
Yeah,
costs to offset.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
copper's
it's,
always
it is the
been pretty
agreement we
high.
entered into, and this is the current recycling market. And I did also express to them concern, you know, a lot of these solar fields were permitted about 10 years ago, and they're all going to reach their useful life in about another 15 years, and the market's probably going to be a little flooded with this type of material, and this, I think the value is going to go significantly down. But we do have another opportunity to evaluate this at the 20-year mark. But we kind of have to deal with the agreement we've entered into right now.
And they're asking us basically to, how much are they paying per month, per quarter?
No, they only have been providing about $5,000 a year.
What? So how did we end up with
I think it was per
$320,000?
month. I think it was per month. To get to 340,000.
Maybe they
No,
put some
they gave
initial
us
in there.
they gave us
Oh,
about, I think it was $250,000 up front. So there was a
Wow.
significant deposit made when the project was initially permitted.
and there's also interest as well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's accrued 10 years worth of interest.
I mean, I would say just keep it the way it is. Cash is king.
So they're asking to, they're
We
asking,
would-
so they're only paying 5,000 a year and they're complaining about that at this point?
Yeah, they feel like we have more than sufficient funds to cover the decommissioning.
Somebody's looking for a bonus.
Very small bonus.
So, I mean, by that logic, we would only, in another 10 years, we'd only end up with another $50,000 from this,
Mhm.
which still doesn't cover the cost of, so the estimate that Kimley Horn used was $520,000 to decommission the site. Right. It's up at the very top of the document. So even if we went another 10 years, we're,
518. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
we,
It was 518. Yep.
they put 519 at the top of it.
Oh,
See, they're-
yeah. If you
they're
round
already
up.
unreliable. So
I
even
would
if,
imagine, sorry, I would imagine that the cost to decommission is also going to go up, right? Just like all labor does. So
Yeah.
it's always more expensive to do things in the future.
you know, if we go into a 10-year recession and people are desperate for any jobs they can get, I don't know.
Well, we
Yeah,
could
so I
also
mean-
say without a peer review report, we'd require the additional funds be submitted with concerns expressed about the volatility of the recycling market. We don't,
Yeah,
it
I
says
mean,
we have to evaluate it. It doesn't say we have to,
Yeah. I mean, even if we had our own peer review, I mean, those numbers are probably just as, you know, wild guesstimates as these ones probably are. I mean, I get that they're probably using 2024 values for what steel and copper are. I mean, I don't know if those numbers are meaningful. We could ask the DPW if they, you know, what we recycle metal, like what we get for our metal recycling. I don't know. If it's anywhere near what they're using.
like I said, I did reach out to a few other communities and it was in line with those figures for the recycling. One of them didn't allow salvage costs to be accounted for. It was just expenses.
Yeah.
which I think is the better option to use going forward, but we do have to, the agreement does require us to analyze current values, so we can't anticipate future reductions in recycling.
Mhm.
I would say just leave it as this.
Yeah, I agree.
Are they pushing hard, Pam, or?
They've been inquisitive, but I've also asked for funds for a peer review, and they've also not agreed. I personally don't know much about this market and the recycling costs of things and decommissioning solar panels. So I didn't feel completely comfortable. The best I could do was reach out to other communities to get comparable reports.
And what did you get? What did you ask for comps on what it would cost to salvage stuff like that, or?
No, I asked for decommissioning analysis from abutting communities for solar fields of similar size. So,
And 520,000 was not unreasonable.
no, it wasn't.
Okay.
And the one that was the facility that was the same size, had the 800 something and change $1,000 for the decommissioning costs, and they did not allow for recycling salvage values to be considered.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable to go forward and tell them we're not certain that there are sufficient funds
Yeah.
to cover the
I-
decommissioning.
Yeah, I think that if we say that the estimates for recycling are too variable and we don't know what they'll be in the future, so until such time that they continue. And you said is the deal says 5,000 per year? Like, where is that actually stipulated?
Yeah, let me find.
In the agreement?
It's not it's a percentage base that's figured out. It's not a flat out value that's referenced.
Mm.
Let me find that decommissioning. I'll have to look through and I can highlight it. I don't recall exactly where it was in the documents.
You want us to take a vote on this tonight, or do we want to get
We can
any more
continue it if you
information?
want additional information from the applicant.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what other information we all want, other than the fact that if they're telling us that it takes $520,000 to decommission this and we have 340, we know there's a shortage, and they're saying, well, you make it up through recycling. And I guess that's we either accept that or we don't.
Yeah, and I think that's the big question in my mind is it's using today's values, right? And today's today's value for steel and for the solar panels, and also for today's value of labor.
Yep.
And both of those things, I don't know what that looks like in 10 years from now, especially because there could be major depreciation of this material. I don't know.
Yeah, that was my argument too, and they were correct with their response in saying that we have to consider it costs at the 10-year evaluation, but I don't know that
Because
we're all completely, that's the way the agreement's written. I don't know that we're all completely confident with the costs that they gave us, just having it two comparables. I got two reports from abutting communities. It something to go by, but it's not necessarily a definitive figure.
Yeah, and it's not exact, right? It's not.
Yeah, right. They're all estimates, but
yeah. Well, I just mean it's not. I mean, I don't know if you found an exact similarly sized solar field with the same sort of age and whatever.
They were similar in size and timing, but I can't say that they're the same materials and panels and that type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So Pam, sorry, you said earlier on that you'd recommend going forward, and does that mean going forward with the agreement as it stands, requiring them to continue making payments, or that?
Well, we can enter into some, if they choose, if we ask for additional information to kind of make us feel more confident in the numbers, they can agree to provide that. If not, there's a mediation provision in the agreement that we would have to enter into.
So if we don't agree to forego the payments that they're making, we have to go into mediation.
That's how the agreement reads, yeah. Timely mediation procedures to be held in a mutual convenient location.
And Ken, we welcome your recommendation here as well. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion either way. I mean, there is a significant amount of money in that account, which is good. It doesn't seem to cover the cost of what it is. Accepting the recycling and scrap money that we'd get. But yeah, who does that? Are we hiring somebody to do that? Does that cost of what we could get from the scrap, are we paying somebody to go and salvage that? Or
Yes.
does that assume the town's doing it?
You would probably have to break down the panels and what have you to get to the copper. And the steel is probably the foundation that the panels are sitting on. So it would all have to be broken down. So Austin is correct in saying about the labor costs. I mean, depending on who's doing it, who is responsible for that.
Well, I mean, remember that we are responsible for that, because all this is saying, if in the, in the circumstance that the applicant goes out of business, defaults, goes bankrupt or whatever, and we're left
Right.
with a derelict solar field sitting there, how do we decommission it?
Right. Do you
And
have
so-
a company will a company come in
Yeah.
and do it, or would a
Yeah,
it's
we'd
like electronic recycling. I have at my workspace, I have a company come in, they just come and pick it up and take it for free, they make the money on the recycling. So I don't physically take apart the computers, the laptops.
I think we'd be required to follow public procurement procedures too, even though
I mean,
we're using
so
private funds.
and I'm looking at the agreement here. So this says that the original escrow amount was 300,000 that they put into
Oh, yeah.
it.
Yep.
So they've only put $40,000 into it over 10 years,
Yeah.
and probably not even, because this was an interest-bearing account,
Mhm.
and presumably it's made some interest over the past few years.
Right.
Wait, does that add up? I thought it was 340,000 in 10 years at 5,000 is 50.
Well, Pam was saying that the 5,000 isn't actually, it's not 5,000, it's some percentage.
I see. Okay.
I don't know if it accounts for it's an inflation figure that they provide to us, so it might have fluctuated. Accounting didn't have an exact statement list to give to me of all the previous deposits. It would take some looking into, so I would need some more time.
Is this isn't is this on town property?
No,
This is just a requirement for any solar installation, is they have to have some kind of a winding down fund for it?
Yeah, to secure, the cell towers often have it as well, to ensure deconstruction costs if the fields were to be taken down. Similar to bonds we hold for subdivisions to ensure completion, this is similar in that we hold funds to restore the property should the developer or owner of the property default for any reason.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I don't know what, it sounds like no one's totally comfortable with voting to stop,
Yeah,
have them stop making the payments. So I don't know what more, what more we need from them, but apparently it's something. I mean, I can try reading through the original agreement, but I don't know how much I'm going to be able to add to that discussion.
So Michael, if I guess we don't agree as a board to what they're requesting, the next step is, I guess, is the mediation. Is that correct? There would be a mediation.
If they choose to go to that, it's an option in the agreement.
Otherwise, we revisit this in 10 years if they don't choose to mediate.
Yeah.
Okay. What does mediation entail? Is that, yeah, is it just our time? Is it legal? Is it is there anybody else's time involved or cost involved to that?
I can't really say. There are mediators you can hire for various things, so I assume that would refer to that.
It would cost us money.
Oh yeah, yep.
I don't know. Let's table this for now and maybe pick it up again at our next meeting. And we can try to figure out some, what's gonna make us feel better. I mean, it sounds like, Pam, you're saying other communities have similar agreements, similar amounts of money. We're not like this. This isn't like we're, wildly underfunded here.
No,
Okay.
but it seems to be, they're saying we'd end up with a $300-something thousand profit, and we have that funds and security to cover the decommissioning costs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's maybe we just pick this up at the next meeting, unless there's some. Is there a need to take a vote on this tonight, Pam? Or...
No, we can continue
Okay.
it to the next meeting.
All right. Let's talk about it then. And maybe we can try to get some more details. The last item was approval of minutes. I don't think I saw minutes come through, Pam. Did you
No, we
send
didn't
those?
get them done. We'll
Okay.
get it in for the next packet.
Okay, no worries. I know everyone, this has been a long meeting. Thanks for your patience. So last thing, just any other business, anything people want to discuss quickly?
Yeah, I just had one quick question. I asked Mike about it, but he didn't know. I saw in the paper that the owner of Colonial Candy said that there was something coming before the planning board. Had you heard anything that's coming, or?
I have not. A realtor representing the owner contacted us and asked to be on a planning board agenda to discuss possible uses for the property. But she didn't have any suggestions. There were no proposals. She was more inquiring about what would be allowed, and because that's not really the planning board jurisdiction and there were no specific or preliminary proposals, I didn't think it would be a benefit. It's really
what do you mean? I mean, we do set the table of uses, but you're saying like the building inspector enforces that?
Yeah, she wanted to know what would be an allowed use as of now for if they sold the property. But they didn't have any proposals in mind. I think someone approached Mike, the building inspector, with a self-storage site, which clearly says it's not allowed in that zoning district, the limited business zoning district. But that's not really up to the planning board's jurisdiction. It's just not an allowed use, and there's no use variances in town. So I didn't know. I told her she has any preliminary proposals or wants to discuss something more in depth to give us a call back. I didn't know that a general discussion looking to us to see what would be allowed on the site would be very productive. And this
Yeah,
was,
I think she should do everything through you first before anything comes to us.
Yeah, for sure.
and we're happy to meet with her when she has something to ask or preliminary proposals to discuss.
Hopefully it's not heavy machinery sales.
Not allowed. Okay, anything else people want to discuss?
Oop.
No, okay.
And that because I know, Mike, you had called me about that too. That conversation just occurred on Monday, I think it was.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, no, I figured. Yeah, I mean, I imagine that they must be trying to do something soon. I mean, the last guy the heavy machinery guy, he specifically put into his purchase and sale agreement a contingency that the planning board approve what he wanted. And so we didn't, so he backed out of that. It sounded like this, I mean, at least what the paper said, it sounded like this was a bit more of a non-contingent offer, but I don't know.
She didn't mention any offers. That was the discussion we had. So I just didn't know a general, what can we do with the property question would be very productive for anyone.
This was the realtor for the current owner. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Okay. I thought you meant this was the prospective owner.
No, it was the current owner.
Okay. All right. So yeah, keep us in the loop on anything with that. If there's nothing else to discuss, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Long meeting.
Thank you.
So we'll I always forget to do this. Our next meeting is October 23rd. Is that correct?
Yes. We have one item on the agenda in terms of public meetings, and that's for a backland lot special permit on the corner of Green Road and Harvard Road.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll see
Night,
everyone
everybody.
then.
Right.
All right, have a good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Take care.
Bye, Pam.